Ownership over excuses means you stop lying to yourself in ways that sound comfortable. It's that moment when you realize nobody is coming to save you. Nobody owes you understanding, and nobody is responsible for where you land except you. A lot of people want sympathy for their situation, but sympathy never builds anything solid. Progress comes when you look in the mirror and think, this is on me. Not in a negative way, not beating yourself down, but in an empowered way. Because the moment you own it, you control it. Excuses feel good in the short term. They give your ego a place to hide. They help you sleep at night without changing anything. But every excuse you repeat becomes a brick in the wall between you and your future. You start blaming the environment, the timing, the people around you, the system, the past. And yeah, life isn't fair. The conditions aren't perfect. But if you wait for perfect conditions, you'll stay stuck in the same place forever. Ownership is saying, even if it's unfair, it's still my move. When you take ownership, you stop wasting energy explaining why things didn't work out. You start studying why they didn't. That's a different mindset. One is defensive, the other is strategic. Ownership makes you a student of your own mistakes instead of a victim of them. You don't deny the loss, you analyze it. You ask yourself what you could have done better, sharper, smarter. And that's how you level up without making noise about it. A lot of people talk about being self-made, but they don't want to accept self-accountability. You can't have one without the other. Ownership means your habits are your responsibility. Your discipline is your responsibility. Your growth is your responsibility. Nobody owes you consistency. Nobody owes you belief. If you want results, you got to show proof through action, daily, quietly, relentlessly. Ownership also means you stop waiting to feel ready. Ready is a feeling. Ownership is a decision. You decide to move even when confidence is low. You decide to work even when motivation disappears. You decide to stay locked in even when progress feels slow. That's how momentum is built, not from emotion, but from commitment. And let's be real, excuses are creative. They sound logical. They sound smart. They even sound responsible sometimes. I'm waiting for the right time. I need more resources. I just need one more opportunity. But deep down, when you're stalling, ownership calls you out on that. It forces you to act with what you have, where you are, right now. No shortcuts, no delays. When you own your situation, you stop pointing fingers and start pointing directions. You don't ask, why is this happening to me? You ask, what's this teaching me? That shift alone can change the trajectory of your life, because now every obstacle becomes useful. Every setback becomes information. Every failure becomes a tool. Ownership is also lonely. Let's not sugarcoat it. When you stop making excuses, you lose certain conversations. You can't complain the same way. You can't blend in with people who bond over blaming circumstances. You start moving different, thinking different. And not everybody will understand that. But that's the cost of growth. You can't evolve and stay comfortable at the same time. The real power of ownership is that it gives you leverage. When you accept responsibility, you gain authority over your future. You stop waiting for permission. You start needing validation. You start building from a place of self-respect. You don't rush the process, but you don't avoid it either. You stay patient, but you stay active. And ownership doesn't mean you never struggle. It means when you struggle, you don't quit. You adjust. You refine. You stay in the game. You understand that progress is earned through repetition, not luck, through consistency, not excuses, through discipline, not drama. At the end of the day, excuses keep you safe, but ownership makes you free. Safe people stay stuck. Free people take risks, learn fast, and keep moving. Ownership is the line between talking about change and becoming it. And once you cross that line, there's no going back, because now you know the truth. Everything changes when you stop asking for understanding and start demanding excellence from yourself. That's ownership. And that's where real domination begins. Marathon mentality is understanding that real success don't move on your schedule. It moves on its own timeline. It's knowing from the jump that this road is long, uneven, and sometimes lonely, but you commit anyway. You don't sprint because you're excited, and you don't stop because you're tired. You pace yourself with intention. You understand that the goal isn't to look ahead and get overwhelmed. It's to take the next step with focus and discipline every single day. A lot of people burn out because they chase quick wins. They want results immediately, validation immediately, rewards immediately. But anything that comes fast can leave just as fast. Marathon mentality is choosing foundation over hype. It's choosing to build skills when nobody's watching, to sharpen your mind when there's no applause, to stay consistent when the numbers aren't moving yet. You trust that the work is stacking even when you can't see the progress. When you move with a marathon mindset, you don't compare your pace to others. Everybody got a different starting line, a different load they carrying, a different lesson they learning. Comparison will have you speeding up when you shouldn't, or quitting when you actually right on time. You stay locked into your own lane, you respect your process, you understand that slow growth is still growth and sustainable growth is undefeated. Marathon mentality also teaches patience without laziness. You're not sitting around waiting for magic to happen. You active, you disciplined, you showing up, but you also not rushing the evolution. You let things mature. You let knowledge deepen. You let your craft season. Because rush work cracks under pressure, but seasoned work stands firm when it's tested. There will be stretches where nothing seems to change. No recognition, no breakthroughs, just repetition. That's the part that filters people out. That's where most quit, not because they can't do it, but because they don't see it working yet. Marathon mentality keeps you grounded during those silent phases. You remind yourself that roots grow in darkness before anything shows above ground. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's dead. You also learn how to take losses differently. Losses don't knock you off your path, they just slow you down long enough to teach you something. You don't panic, you don't self-destruct, you don't start doubting the whole vision because of one setback. You adjust your stride, you tighten your form, you keep moving because you understand that finishing strong matters more than starting loud. Marathon mentality requires discipline over emotion. Some days you motivate, some days you not. That don't change the mission. You don't let mood dictate movement. You move because it's what you're committed to. That kind of consistency builds confidence. Not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. You also start thinking long-term with your decisions. You don't just ask, will this benefit me today? You ask, will this still make sense years from now? You protect your energy. You choose your circles carefully. You invest time in things that compound. You stop wasting effort on distractions that don't align with where you're headed. That's wisdom earned through patience. Marathon mentality means accepting that the journey will test your identity. There will be moments where you question if it's worth it, if you should switch paths, if you should settle. That's normal. You don't fold under pressure. You remind yourself why you started. You remember the vision that pulled you out of comfort, and you stay solid through the doubt. The beauty of this mindset is that it builds resilience. You don't break when things get hard because you expected resistance. You don't get distracted by temporary success because you know the race isn't over. You stay humble when you're winning and grounded when you're losing. Balance keeps you in the race longer than talent ever will. At the end, marathon mentality isn't about speed, it's about endurance. It's about being the one still standing when others faded out, still focused when others got distracted, still disciplined when others got comfortable. You understand that greatness is accumulated, not announced. And when you finally reach that place, you envision it won't feel like luck. It'll feel familiar because you've been walking toward it every day. That's the power of the marathon mindset. It keeps you moving when motivation runs out, keeps you building when nobody's watching, and keeps you locked in until the work speaks for itself. Purpose-driven hustle is what happens when your grind got meaning behind it. It's not just waking up early, staying busy, or chasing numbers. It's knowing why you move the way you move. Because without purpose, hustle turns into noise. You work hard, but you feel empty. You stay active, but you don't feel fulfilled. Purpose is what turns effort into impact and pressure into progress. When your hustle is purpose-driven, you don't need to be pushed. You don't need constant motivation or external validation. The mission wakes you up. The vision keeps you focused. You understand that what you're building is bigger than your comfort, bigger than your mood, and bigger than today's results. That's why you keep going even when it's heavy, even when it's slow, even when nobody understands the direction you're headed. A lot of people hustle to escape something, pain, lack, insecurity, fear. That kind of hustle can get you started, but it can't sustain you. Purpose-driven hustle is different. You hustling towards something, toward growth, toward legacy, toward a version of yourself that stands on principles, not just profits. Money becomes a tool, not the destination. Success becomes a responsibility, not just a reward. When purpose is clear, decisions get easier. You stop chasing everything and start choosing intentionally. Not every opportunity deserves your energy. Not every shortcut aligns with your values. Purpose gives you a filter. It helps you say no without guilt and yes without hesitation. You move with integrity because you know what you're representing, your name, your people, your vision. Purpose-driven hustle also keeps you grounded when success starts showing up. You don't let wins inflate your ego or losses crush your spirit. You stay centered because your worth isn't tied to applause. You know why you're here. You know what you're building. That clarity keeps you solid when the lights get bright and when the room gets quiet. There will be moments when quitting makes sense on paper, when the numbers don't add up yet, when the effort feels one-sided, when people doubt you or misunderstand your moves. Purpose is what keeps you in the game during those moments. It reminds you that some rewards don't show up immediately. Some seeds take time. Some missions require patience before they produce results. Purpose-driven hustle means you're willing to be misunderstood for a season. You're willing to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term alignment. You don't chase trends that don't fit your vision. You don't water yourself down to be accepted. You stay true even when it costs you in the moment because you know alignment always pays back with interest. It also changes how you handle setbacks. You don't see obstacles as signs to stop, but as tests of commitment. You ask yourself, is this still worth it? And if the answer is yes, you adapt instead of quitting. Purpose gives setbacks meaning. They become part of the story, not the end of it. They shape your character, sharpen your perspective, and strengthen your resolve. When your hustle has purpose, you think beyond yourself. You start asking how your work can open doors for others, how your progress can create opportunities, how your voice can inspire movement. You realize success isn't just about elevation, it's about contribution. And understanding changes the way you move. You build with intention, not ego, with patience, not greed. Purpose-driven hustle also protects you from burnout. When you know why you're grinding, fatigue doesn't feel pointless. Tired doesn't mean lost. It just means you're in the work. You rest when needed, but you don't abandon the mission. You pace yourself because you're in it for the long run, not a quick win. At the core, purpose-driven hustle is about alignment between who you are, what you do, and what you stand for. It's about building something that still feels right when nobody's watching, something that still matters when the numbers fluctuate, something that represents growth, resilience, and intention. When you move with purpose, your hustle becomes powerful, not because it's loud, but because it's rooted, not because it's fast, but because it's focused. And over time, that kind of hustle doesn't just change your life, it changes everything connected to you.